Jens Pulver. The first UFC Lightweight Champion was inaugurated in 2001, where Jens Pulver won the belt at UFC 30 against Caol Uno. He went on to defend the title 2 times against Dennis Hallman and BJ Penn. He was stripped of the belt in 2002 due to a contract dispute and left the UFC to go to rival promotion WEC. Sean Sherk. After a draw between BJ Penn and Caol Uno in the 4-man tournament for the lightweight belt in 2003, the belt remained vacant until 2006, where at UFC 64, Sean Sherk would win the title against Kenny Florian. He would go on to have a single title defense against Hermes Franca and would later be stripped of the title after a positive steroid test. BJ Penn. The undisputed title was once again up for grabs at UFC 80, where Penn would claim gold against Joe Stevenson with a second-round rear naked choke. BJ would go on to defend the title against Sean Sherk, Kenny Florian, and Diego Sanchez, and would later also claim the title at welterweight, becoming a 2-division champion. Unfortunately for Penn, even though his championship reign in his early career no doubt made him one of the greats, many fight fans would go on to remember him for his infamous 7-fight losing streak, which spanned the last 8 years of his career. Frankie Edgar. Edgar would take the title from BJ Penn at UFC 112 and would cement his championship with another defense against the former champ Penn. He would go on to defend the title twice against Gray Maynard, with their first fight ending in a draw. He reigned the lightweight throne for 687 days and is no doubt viewed by most as a legend of the sport. Benson Henderson. At UFC 144, the former WEC champion would pull an upset and defeat the champ Frankie Edgar in a 5-round main event. He would defend against Edgar again and go on to defend the belt 2 more times against Nate Diaz and Gilbert Melendez. Benson had a bizarre habit of having a toothpick in his mouth during his UFC fights, and would later admit he accidentally swallowed the toothpick one time. Regardless, Benson was a fan favorite during his career, and his reign of the lightweight division was undoubtedly memorable to all. Anthony Pettis. Having just won the WEC title against Benson Henderson in 2010, the former opponents would once again fight for a championship at UFC 164 in 2013. Pettis would be able to win the rematch and would go on to have a single title defense against Gilbert Melendez. Showtime is famous for his viral off-the-cage kick that he landed during him and Henderson's first fight. Rafael dos Anjos. RDA would pick up the title at UFC 185 in 2015 to become the first non-American lightweight champion. The Brazilian would defend his title in dominating fashion with a first-round knockout of Donald Cerrone at UFC on Fox 17, and would hold the title for a total of 481 days. Eddie Alvarez. After just 3 fights in the UFC, the former Bellator champ would TKO dos Anjos during the first round at UFC Fight Night 90. Unfortunately, Alvarez's title reign would last just as quick as his rise to the top due to the sport's new megastar, Conor McGregor. Having just knocked out legend Jose Aldo to lay his claim to the featherweight strap, the sport's new largest star, McGregor, would set his eyes on becoming the first ever UFC simultaneous double champ at UFC 205. In his way was the newly minted champ Alvarez, who despite his confidence coming into the bout, was no match for the streaking Irishman. McGregor would win via a second-round TKO and become the sport's first ever simultaneous 2-weight champion. He would later be stripped of the belt due to his mega fight with boxer Floyd Mayweather. Tony Ferguson. During Conor McGregor's leave of the sport due to his match with Mayweather, the first interim champion of the lightweight division would be crowned. Ferguson would win the interim title against Kevin Lee during his monstrous 12-fight win streak. He would never have the chance to lay claim to undisputed gold, however, due to unfortunate circumstances, and he would later have to relinquish his interim belt due to injury. Ferguson, once known as the boogeyman of the lightweight division, currently is on an 8-fight losing streak, with his most recent to Michael Chiesa in August of 2024. Khabib Nurmagomedov. After having a title bout cancelled against Tony Ferguson due to the latter sustaining an injury, Khabib would fight the short-notice opponent Ai Quinta at UFC 223. He would win in dominating fashion and lay claim to the undisputed lightweight championship. Khabib would go on to defend the title against Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje, finishing all by submission. He would go on to relinquish the title after his father's passing in 2020, and would retire with a professional record of 29 wins, 0 losses. Many fans consider Khabib a top 10 UFC fighter of all time. Some even have him in the GOAT conversation. Dustin Poirier. During Khabib's 9-month suspension due to his part in the post-UFC 229 brawl, the interim title would be put on the line with Dustin Poirier and then featherweight champ Max Holloway pitted against each other. He would soundly defeat Holloway in his second win against the Hawaiian, but would then go on to lose in a title unification bout against Khabib. Justin Gaethje. Once again, Khabib would be unable to defend his title in 2020 due to air travel restrictions, so an interim title bout was once again set in place between Justin Gaethje and Tony Ferguson. Gaethje would put an end to Ferguson's 12-fight win streak and would stop the boogeyman in the 5th round to lay claim to the interim title. He would later lose the title unification bout against Khabib later that year. Charles Oliveira. After Khabib's retirement, the lightweight title would once again be put on the line at UFC 262, where the Brazilian Do Bronx would face the former Bellator champion Michael Chandler. In an epic comeback win, Oliveira would win the title fight with a second-round stoppage of Chandler. He would go on to defend the belt against Dustin Poirier, but would be stripped of the title in 2022 because of a weight miss against Justin Gaethje. He would go on to win the fight against Gaethje, but would not be able to lay claim to the undisputed belt until his next bout against his opponent, Islam Makhachev. Islam would win the title against former champ Charles Oliveira at UFC 280. The cousin of the great Khabib would go on to defend the title 4 times against the likes of Alexander Volkanovski twice, Dustin Poirier, and Renato Moicano. Makhachev is currently riding a 15-fight win streak, which is one away from the all-time record held by Anderson Silva. Islam's grappling, paired with his superb striking, has made him a dominant champion and the current pound-for-pound #1. If Islam can rack up a few more title wins, he could very well be on track to become the GOAT of the sport. I hope you guys enjoyed learning about the history of the lightweight division. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.